This week on UpFront, we continue the story of how Joy News, through its hotline documentary, is now revealing how some teachers employed by the Ghana Education Service are taking as low as 60 Ghana cedis to compromise examination outcomes. In fact, this is spurring on a whole conversation as to how we can improve public education across the country. But first, let's put this into perspective and context for you in our latest documentary that we've titled The Dark World of BEC for you, which showcases the challenge that we face at the basic level, and we understand from more interactions across all the levels of stakeholders that this is becoming a deep crisis within the education system. How do we resolve it and how do we make progress? First, though, here on UpFront with me, Blessed Sugan, we give you a sense of what transpired earlier this week and what we found out in our latest series of the Hotline documentary. Here are steps.
According to the head of public affairs at WAEC, John Kapi, the council spelled out the rules to the supervisors. Meanwhile, on the same day, staff of GES appointed as supervisors for the exams and tasked with the responsibility to relay the rules to the invigilators were rather outrightly preparing the invigilators to break the rules.
Some of them will be asked a question. But sometimes we don't know, so we tell them, I don't know. Okay. If they can ask their friends, which they feel is correct, I can permit you ask your friend the same. And from this, it is not individual, it's by the school, understand? And from there, they are entering to another level. So for them to open schools like this, so you can ask your friend to fill the gap. It will be very embarrassing that a whole person why not like that? And we have to talk to them to when you see people, when you see us, fine. When you get a strange person coming, then you can be later, we are letting external visitors coming. Okay. We are your people, so we guide them. Okay.
Wednesday, the 11th of June 2025, was the start of exams which would continue until Wednesday, the 18th of June 2025, to be written by 603,328 registered candidates across the country. The exams started with assembly of candidates, after which a CISO laid down the rules to candidates. They were then marched to the exam rooms without the conduct of searches. It would later be discovered in our investigation that the foreign materials that the search would have found were sanctioned, hence the deliberate skipping of the search. According to WAEC, candidates are required to be thoroughly searched before entering the examination halls. This investigation found that the examination malpractice is perpetuated directly by some staff of GES who provide candidates with answers to all the questions. The answers come through an invigilator dictating the answers, presenting pieces of paper with handwritten answers to candidates to copy and pass on to colleagues, and in some instances, they come on printed sheets distributed to as many as possible candidates at a go. At 9 a.m., the bell announced the start of exams. Unlike a normal examination hall that is characterized by total silence and focus in the first 30 minutes of the start of paper, this investigation uncovered a strange phenomenon. The halls were noisy, candidates were not writing anything, and some were sleeping. To the utter surprise of GH probe investigators, about 30 minutes into the exams, some particular invigilators abandoned their duty post to distribute answers to the questions in batches, one question after the other.
Excerpts there of the dark world of BECE. Experts tell us that this is just a symptom of some of the deep challenges within Ghana's education space, a reason for which we ought to have a holistic reform from basic level all the way to tertiary, if you want to call it as such. And that's why we're having a conversation tonight with the people who matter. The Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition has been on that course, asking all stakeholders to come on board to improve educational outcome. So how do we achieve that, and how do we improve the dark spectacle that we're seeing now on our screens? Happy to be welcoming Bernice Imperi-Jechi, who's National Coordinator for the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. Charles Aheto Chega is a known face, of course, former Director of the Ghana Education Service, now working as a technical advisor to the same campaign coalition. And we're happy that, gentleman and lady, you're joining us in our studios now. Let me start off with Charles, because he's been there before. And I'm just wondering what's going through your mind. Have you ever come across this, or perhaps had to reprimand any teacher in the public sector because of exam malpractice?
Not really.
Right.
It's a rather rare situation to find that happening. But I think that when you look back in time, the current situation seems to have worsened than the previous one. And now we are seeing different phases of this whole malpractice canker, showing up and making it require some attention that should quickly literally nip it off.
That will mean that you're entirely surprised about some of the revelations we're getting now. Mobile phones, AI, even in examination centers.
I am deeply, and especially mobile phones, because we worked on the mobile phone situation, and we thought that we had actually nipped it. But then, there were gaps in the implementation, and so the mobile phones found their way back into the examination center and created the mess that we want. And we have seen, which includes the emergence of copying dito from AI, as if, it is.
This is strange. This is very strange. But Bernice, for some, and of course you know that better, it's about the symptom of how sick our public education system is and the need for us to implement some reforms. But let's start from the position of GNEC and what concerns you've been raising that we've not been paying attention to ever since. A reason for which we are seeing some of these trends in our examination halls. Where do you feel the challenge starts from in our education sector?
Yeah, so I would say that the challenge is starting from our systems and then the processes of the examination, the issue of orientation, community engagement, even PTA, parent-teacher engagement, to let them understand the importance of conducting exam and then the consequences of this act and what it can bring. And then I think over the years, we've been following the examination processes, and then we realized that still there is some form of malpractices. We have called on various stakeholders to make sure that they curb the situation, especially giving a stronger punishment to the culprit to serve as a deterrent to others. But we don't see it. It is only just mentioned in the news, and we don't actually see what punishment has been meted out to those who are culprits of this issue. And then it is getting more serious than we are thinking.
What are some of the needs of our public education sector now that you say would have to prioritize to get it right?
Yeah, so we had a system of Parent-Teachers Association where teachers and parents are to come together to discuss the needs of their wards and what is good for them. And then that system is not really working. And then even the school management committee, who is supposed to ensure that every stage of the education system is accountable to each other, that system has just been, there is a kind of a bridge. It is not working effectively because those systems are not well financed and well resourced to be able to play the role they have to play. And then we are seeing these issues of examination malpractices, and we are afraid as a coalition. We don't know where we are getting to if nothing is done about it now.
Charles, the point about, is it an issue of funding, the fact that parents in the public sector are not necessarily paying as much for education? That's why we seem to have low standards as we're seeing now.
Well, I don't think we want to allude it to parents not paying. I think it is a certain responsibility that government has taken on itself, and government has to ensure that it plays its role the way it has agreed to do. And so it comes down to the issue of accountability. So whereas we look around to look for accountability from teachers and all, we forget the government accountability, which requires that what government has to give is given to ensure that things happen in our school system.
The point about, where to go from here and how to solve the problems that we've identified, how long do you feel it would take for us to deal with some of the issues that are emerging now? Does it have to start from the teachers or from the Ghana Education Service, or where do we start off from?
Well, the starting point is a very difficult thing to do, because then you might be drawn into too many things and therefore not look at the bigger picture. Right. So I think essentially it has to do with making available the resources that are needed for schooling to take place. And as she said, I mean, what do we need? We need that there are books in schools. We need that the curriculum is in place. We need that other materials that the children need to be able to make the most out of schools are happening. We need that ethical examination processes are done within the school system, whereby the children know that it is unethical to go into an examination room and to ask somebody for anything. But that begins from the school. That is not happening. And the malpractices that we are seeing have started from the school internal examination and has become kind of a general practice that is going on. So if we look at some of these things in a kind of a coordinated manner, we could maybe do something about how to resolve the issue.
I'm interested in your story. What was the experience like during your time, and what differences do you see now in our education sector?
Well, in our time, there wasn't much. But now, again, the biggest thing is we didn't know about mobile phones. So the big thing now is mobile phones. Now that kills it. And then the next big thing now is AI.
Yes.
So that makes it worse. It didn't used to happen. But the panacea to these ones were that we introduced a system of searching students before going. Some schools decided to buy the scanning machines. Other schools didn't. And I think that was the point from which we could have started a system of making sure that those schools that refused to get the scanners will pay attention to them and begin to see what is happening. And look at a comparison in terms of, maybe you can look at it as an impact evaluation in terms of addressing this issue and see how you can come up with a very good approach and therefore nip this thing in the bud. So that was the
approach at the time.
Yeah.
But Bernice, you've been going around the country and you've seen firsthand what's happening in our schools. Charles was just pointing out that we need the materials for the teachers. I recall late last year, was it the entire, the whole of last year actually, teachers were raising concerns about TLMs. There were concerns throughout the system. Have those issues been resolved?
Yes, to some extent. We say that there is a bit of improvement. The follow-ups that we are making in the schools. I think when there was introduction of new curriculum, there were no textbooks at all, but the government made effort to print some textbooks for the learners to use. Like Mr. Chagan was saying, the problem has to do with the equal distribution of the teaching and learning materials. So sometimes you go to a remote school and you ask yourself that the students in those schools are coming to write the same examination as to those in town, not to talk about public schools and private schools. But what is worrying with regards to the examination malpractice is that even the private schools and other schools that are privileged to have all the resources, they are still bridging that rules of examination by buying examination questions, allowing invigilators and teachers to solve the questions for the learners in the classroom or at the examination center. And it is a challenge. So this particular malpractices is not about absence of the TLMs alone, but systematic failure. Our systems are not working very well. Because our worry was the number of results that has been held, the number that has been cancelled, and they're looking at the future of the students. I don't blame them, but I blame the teachers, the parents, and then other staff from GES who were able to carefully plan this for the learners or the students to get the examination solved. So I'm sure this started long ago. So it was telling the children that don't learn because we have a plan for you, no matter what happens, we will make sure that you pass the examination. And this is what we are seeing. So this one, even those in the underprivileged areas may not even afford to pay. Because this one, parents paid for the students. I don't think the students had money to pay the GES staff, the teachers, and the invigilators. It would definitely be coming. It was between the parents, the teachers, the invigilators, and the GES staff, which is a challenge. So that system has to be looked at. So as a coalition, we want to challenge GES that we want to see something done about this. Those who are involved, proper investigation should be conducted, including WAEC. And we want to see that those that are culprits are punished to serve as a deterrent to others so that this thing can end. Otherwise, the results of our education outcome or learning outcome cannot be trusted within our country and globally. And
don't you feel that we are, should I use the word, over-fixated on examinations?
Oh, yes, that is an aspect, though, that examination is not the only way to assess how good a student is or not. But that has been our practice. We are hoping that maybe we would gradually shift away from that system. But now that is something that has been accepted, at least we have to protect it and work on the rules that goes with it very well. But I'm sure that maybe with time, we are reforming, we are transforming a bit. I'm sure with time you will see that examination is not the best way to assess students. Yeah.
There should be more ways, certainly. But elsewhere, people are doing open textbook examinations, critical thinking and all of that. Should we begin to see that in our education sector?
Well, those have their challenges, in fact. And,
or our system is not as advanced to accommodate that.
Well, again, that is also another dimension of it. It's not as advanced to even get the children to do that because an open book exam is as difficult as a non-open book exam. So those can be introduced depending on how it is. Some people are calling for more practical aspects of the things that the children learn in school. So that instead of looking for a test paper and a pencil and paper answer, you are looking for more practical, productive things, which is more reflective in terms of what I have been able to learn, and this is what I'm getting out of it. You know, it comes in the written forms, but again, those are things that will become more practical when the need arises. So those are the
Ghana Education Service has released a statement promising to deal with the teachers involved. I want us to talk about the teachers because I'm not sure that without the teachers, this would have been a successful operation. So how much of a burden should the teachers take? And knowing, the codes of GES, what are some of the likely sanctions you would want to see GES apply?
The worst thing is that you lose your job. That, for me, is the last point of call. You will lose your job. The other things could be various levels of sanctions and loss of time and reduction in salaries and some of those benefits. So depending on where your role really is and how deeply damaging it is, you could then end up being dismissed.
Unfortunately, we've spoken to some people who say, well, what they've done is not as egregious as we should be looking at it. It's just a minor offense. Let's forgive them for now. And then we are sure that they won't do the same thing again.
That is minimalizing the whole issue.
Okay.
Because again, they do not even see that they are doing a very grievous harm to this country by even engaging in those kinds of things. And probably they don't know what happens in other countries in terms of the way they manage their examinations. Then they will see that some countries are dead serious about examinations. That is what, if that is what they want to use as a way of determining competence, after you've gone through schooling. So it creates that opportunity for them to be thinking that, oh, this is just a minor thing. No, it's not a minor thing. It's disturbing the children. You're teaching them harmful ways. I mean, the corruption that we are having now, begins from some of these things that happen in schools. And then they grow and take it up, and it goes on and on and on. I've even heard cases where some, a KG madam, a KG parent was asking for questions, for her KG child.
Even as low as KG?
As low as KG. And that is the other point that we are talking about, that it should be possible to begin to do ethical examinations in schools. I mean, our exams should mimic the final examination. The seriousness of the supervision and the way the questions are handled and all. When it takes that form, the children will really appreciate that, no, this is the way I do it. And schools should punish children who even do examination malpractice within the school examinations. So we'll begin to literally turn them away from that practice, you know. So that is one very interesting thing. And I would say that for now, I mean, one big solution that we want, yes, the GES has come up with that statement that they are going to take these things seriously.
Yeah.
We are going to also take the GES very seriously. And there should be a point where we would even ask the GES, I mean, maybe we'll give them, we are not supposed to give them KPIs, but we'll give them the KPI. We'll track whether they've done it, and we'll hold them responsible for it. Because if we don't hold people responsible for what is happening, then that process will continue, and we don't want it to continue.
Okay, we'll talk about the new curriculum shortly, but Bernice, I want to have your take on the examination body, the West Africa Examination Council. We often don't talk about them, but Professor Adai was saying to me on radio the other day that, look, he doesn't even trust that system. Should we continue using, you know, the WAEG system, or what do we do? Should we run our own system just to ensure that, well, we have absolute control over the questions and over the process?
Yeah, so this calls for a wider discussion and then looking more into the rules of WAEC, where they are not able to ensure that the examination system is free and fair. We have to look at all that. Where are they failing? Where are they doing well? So the areas where we think we can support them to be strengthened, we can give ourselves some time, maybe within the next 5 years. WAEC, this is the mandate you have to conduct examination. We don't want to see this kind of malpractices going on again, leakage of examination questions and all that. I remember during this WASI that is ongoing, we have people on social media, TikTok, saying openly, I have the questions, call me ahead of time. And then, yes, so I was forwarding some of the messages to the PRO that what is going on, and then GS as well. Are you seeing these people? What can we do to curb what they are doing? Because we are all looking at it and it is going on.
Basically selling the questions.
They are sending they are selling it. Yes, with their contacts and everything there, so they can easily be traced to take them out of the system. So after giving WAEC that time, and we realized that no, still the issues are going on, then maybe we can think of taking the mandate of conducting our own examination by not paper and pen, chew and pour and that kind of thing, but modify it in a way to suit what we want our children to become in the future.
And now they're even using AI to solve the questions.
Yeah, that's AI has its own challenges that we have to talk about too. It is really helping us though, but then we have to look at the pros and cons as well.
Okay. Before the new curriculum, Charles, what informed the decision to give the power of invigilation to GES and not WAEC from the start?
Interestingly, I don't think anything informed that process, but it was, let me call it, it was a standard behavior thing. Like, the examinations are owned by the GES. Now, we must demonstrate that we are interested in it. So, we'll call it, we own the examination. So, our teachers can invigilate. In fact, it had been done all through our time, through my time, without problems. Now, the whole confusion started when teachers said that, no, they are not supposed, their terms of reference does not include examination invigilation. So then they changed the whole ball game, and now WAEC now had to look for its own invigilators. Fair and square. So we've come to an agreement that yes, now, okay, fine. Those who want to, so that examination now is not compulsory as it was then, but now it's a preference. If you want to invigilate, you take part in the exam. And that is why the thing becomes serious when the same people who have decided willfully to participate in supervising the examination turn around to be the main people who are promoting examination malpractices. And that is why the GES had to do
Could it not be because of the poor payments or salaries to teachers in the public sector, maybe?
Well, again, that is a big elephant in the room.
Because if a teacher is receiving as low as 60 Ghana cedis, that gives you a sense of what the challenge is.
That is not your normal work.
Yeah.
So you're doing, quote unquote, a part-time job. So, and if 60 cedis is not good, you can opt out. So I think that it is important for them to understand the rules. Now it is not compulsory for you to do it, for which somebody says, I'll give you 60 cedis. Now, if it is still 60 cedis and you think you like it, take part. If you think you don't like it, opt out. A lot of teachers have opted out. So it is not like compulsory for them now, and it's important that they come to those terms, but not say that I'll take it and then go and undermine the sanctity of the system. Okay,
the new curriculum, Bernice, that process started, I think, way back. The new minister also inaugurated some committees, I recall, when he came into office. Are you tracking that process, and would you say that it will bring about, improved outcomes in the system?
All right. Changing of curriculums, changing of maybe some reforms within the education system is also a bit of a challenge to me, because it seems like every government has a new idea to run the education system. So this government starts with this kind of curriculum, a kind of guidelines, something within a short time. We don't even test this to see the outcome of it, whether it is good or not. Maybe we have some few people sitting down, oh, we want to change this, we want to change that, because that is what we want to see, so that there is an impact for our government or something. And it is not too good for us. I think that for us to change a curriculum, we all have to look at it, analyze it well, test it well, and see that the outcome of that curriculum is what we need as a country, not to say that, oh, we have to change, because sometimes we invest so much into a curriculum, educational reform, and within a short time, we have to change when we have not even seen the results of what has been started. So as to whether it will help or not, I think that before we bring out any new reforms within the education sector, it should be tested, it should be tried. All stakeholders should come together to understand that where we have gotten to, this is what we need. And we are doing this for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years, unless we all see the need that, no, at this point, we have to change it or go back. But if every government is changing, this one this system, you are running it for 3 years, another want to do 4 years, we are taking this out, just within a short time, it is not really helping our education system, and we have to look at it.
At the last count, I understand, is it cultural studies will be back again? So many things going on. Do you feel there are some missteps? There are some things that we ought to be paying attention to?
Yeah, so we are disturbing the children. We are confusing the teachers, because every time new things are coming up, we've had encounter with some teachers, and they will tell you at a point, we are confused, we don't even know what to do. And sometimes when there is the change in this too, we are not able to give a nationwide orientation or even training to the teachers as to how to handle the curriculum. It is done bit by bit. Sometimes you don't even cover the entire nation before you see a change in another one coming. So it is really confusing, the education system, and we have to look at it.
Just is it the case that we don't have a comprehensive plan covering our education, a reason for which each government comes with their own approach, with their own systems? We don't seem to be consistent.
Yes, we don't seem to be consistent because we, as a nation, probably as some of the leadership, demonstrates a certain lack of understanding of that process. So it's important that our leadership will understand the whole conception of curriculum, and then they would want to follow the principles, which are global and standardized. Now, currently, there are global processes that have been introduced to define what a very good teaching curriculum should be for the children. And I like the fact that you say curriculum, culture. Yeah. Culture is coming back. Yes, culture will come back because culture is very important in the learning for children. They need to understand where they come from and everything about culture is very, very important. It is significant. And for us, we are doing some work in breadth of learning opportunities. Culture is essential to the curriculum, and it has to come back. So it may come back when they sit down and they are discussing some of those things. So as we go on with that, we'll standardize the curriculum, and anybody who comes will see that we are following a particular standard, and the changes will not come in. Because in culture, you can even use religious and moral as part of it. So you don't call it religious and moral, but it's culture, and it's a subset of the things that the children are learning, and it covers whatever interest groups that are interested in pushing the religious and moral agenda and all of those things. And there are so many things that can be done in that regard. Okay,
let's spend the next half of our conversation to talk about some social reforms. Starting off with teacher postings. Rural communities are in need of teachers, and we don't seem to have a lot of them going into the areas. Venice, I'm sure you've interacted with some of the teachers who've told you, as for this area, I don't want to be posted there. Should we consider giving them some incentives? What should we do to them?
Yeah, so that incentive policy on some incentives given to teachers that are posted to remote areas, it is there, but just that it is not being fully implemented or not implemented at all. Because sometimes we are human. Maybe I have stayed in town all of my life, then I'm posted to a very remote area where I don't even have a decent accommodation. We don't have any social life, everything absent, not even network to make calls and communicate to your family and other friends and all that. It becomes very challenging. Yes, so infrastructure has been one of the challenges in our education system. So it really affects the children in those areas. So at least maybe we are challenging this current government that they should really look at infrastructure. And as the health system, sometimes they build bungalows behind the hospitals or the health centers in order to accommodate. Yes, we should be looking at something like that for teachers, because that need of teachers has been neglected for a long time. So let's begin to adapt that system. We are also calling on the teacher unions to be able to build some of these hostels in the villages, remote areas, not only in town and all that. They are building a lot of infrastructures in town, but we are asking that they should please go to those areas.
Move it out of town.
Yes, move it out of town.
The nut hostels.
Yes, the nut hostels and all that, so that they can get some small bungalows for teachers. At least where they sleep should be comfortable, and they can manage with their other social life after work. Yeah.
I think that will be a very good call to look at. Charles, knowing that very often you find the leadership of NAT and NAGRAT building the hostels in plush areas, and people who are not even teachers are making use of those facilities now.
Yeah, that's the downside of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think this discussion is still ongoing with the trade unions.
They'll tell you we're not governments anyway.
Yeah, but we are trying to let them see that they have a responsibility to the staff who pay the dues. So it's a question of, when I pay my dues, what do you use it for? And I want to have value for the kind of dues that I pay. And one of the value that you can get from your pay is that it is used to provide you a certain space. You can get into a certain partnership with government and say, look, we have X amount of money, and we want you to also support your portion with this. We talk about PPP everywhere, but we don't do it. So those things can now be started, and it will help to improve a lot of the things and reduce the burden on teacher accommodation and teacher comfort and all of those things, and help the teachers to feel proud to go to the areas that they have to go. And the other thing that we want to say, that it's important, all of us as nationals must see everywhere, every part of Ghana worth living. Where there are people, you should also be able to live in those areas. There might be what you might term as problems. Yes, there are problems. You as a teacher, you are the best placed person to go into a place and begin to make the kind of reforms and changes in those things. And I always say that teachers are the big social change agents in a lot of communities. communities. So as much as possible, we should begin to see ourselves not only as teachers, but as real social change agents, to get the communities that we work in to begin to transform and to adapt more positive ways of doing things. And I guess that everybody then will now begin to see the benefits of going to every part of Ghana.
Okay. The high school calendar is just starting again, I believe. Government says it is abolishing the double track system entirely. Do you believe it's entirely gone?
Well, we are still in the present, so it's got shades of it still existing. Maybe I would describe this as the last kicks of a dying horse. So if we see that as the phasing out, then we can trust that it could happen. But I've seen a lot of social media statements assigned to the Director General saying things like, no, the double track is not gone, and it's hard to believe whether that is true or that is not true. So I take it with a lot of pinch of salt, because the government says it is determined to stop it. So we will go by the government side and we will see what will happen. So we want to trust the government to make sure that the double track.
Yeah, Bernice, whatever the case, you plan to visit some of the schools, I believe, to see firsthand what's going on.
Yeah, so abolishing the double track system, it will be good, it will help, but we should please prepare for it well. We should be mindful that the number of students in the senior high schools has increased. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the number of dormitories, number of classrooms, teachers available, and see that if we push all these children to go to school at a go, is it going to help in terms of their health, the space, the feeding and all that? Is it going to help? So we really have to look at it well. If we are able to abolish it, it is good, but then we should prepare well. Just like when, before the free senior high school began, we were thinking that it will be a gradual process whereby there will be some increase in the infrastructure in the schools and all that to accommodate the children. Not when you go and students are sleeping on the floor, they don't have food to eat and then all that. It will be a challenge. So I would plead that when we are abolishing, we should really look at, it should be a gradual process and prepare very well so that it will not have any negative impact on teaching and learning in the senior high school.
Okay, you're still with us here on Upfront. There's a lot more to explore in the world of education. We'll do that after taking these messages. We'll come back and we'll hear a bit more from the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. They have a lot more to share with us. Please stay. Okay, let's continue the conversation on the education sector, a very critical area that we're paying attention to on the show for tonight. And I want us to move right into the placement, which is being released, I believe, September 17, Bernice? Your expectation for that exercise and that phase of rolling the BEC students into the senior high schools. Very often we hear of concerns about how people are not able to find places. Some make use of the catchment areas. What challenges are you receiving reports on, and how do you feel we can iron that out?
All right, so I think this time GES is doing well with the ministry. I've seen quite a number of education on how the placement is going to be, how the process will begin. But most importantly, the challenge we've had is when we have a lot of parents, students going to the secretariat, sleeping there, and then all that just to get a school. We are hoping that all those areas will be kept this time so that we will not have the challenge of parents and then learners going to the secretariat to get a school. So that is our expectation, that those challenges would be addressed now. So between now and then 17th, we will still urge GES, the ministry, to use all the platforms they have to provide a lot of information on the process so that it can be very smooth.
When that time comes, you find parents very desperate to get their wards into school, and they are taking advantage of sometimes.
Yeah, so this time it is good that the duration between the time the placement will be released and when the students have to go to school, there is quite a number of time. So it will help the parent to realize that at least I have about 3 weeks or more to prepare before my child go to school. So we are hoping that even if there are any challenges, at least within a week or two, it would be solved, and at least parents will have 2 weeks. I think previously sometimes 3 days, less than 1 week for parents to prepare to send their children to school was a lot of pressure on parents and all guardians and stakeholders. So the time between the placements and when the children have to report to school, I think that the number of days given is significant. It will help to solve all those problems before the children get to school, especially those who may not get school up front or would have some kind of challenges with their placement.
And the work by the Fourth Estate comes fresh in my mind in terms of how people go all in just to secure particular schools for their awards. It's becoming a challenge in the system.
Yes, that's a big challenge to the system. People have not believed in the processes that have been set up. And I just as Madam Bernice has said, government has tried to explain that this time it intends to go through the process and that you chose a school and that is what you get. So parents may rest assured that some of these things will happen. What we are afraid of is that where you take a boy or a girl from Bolgatanga and send that person to a school in Western region to be a day student. We are hoping that this opportunity will come for them to curb that practice. If a child has to actually go to a day school, that must be a day school within his living location, so that the child can feel it easy to commute from school to wherever. So, if it is the parents' desire that the child must go somewhere, then the parents will only have that responsibility to ensure that he will find a place and let them work. But what government is saying is that it wants to ensure that, yes, people have chosen a school, they will get a school. And that's why it has opened the portal to allow people to make as many changes and choices, just so that they themselves will be comfortable with where, at the end of the day, they are placed. So we are expecting that would happen.
We just hope that the system will not be compromised this time around.
Yeah.
Because a lot of GES officials, per the last investigative piece that was released by the Fourth Estate, would even take money to secure special postings for people. That whole notion that a certain school is better than the other, it's
a problem. I mean, it is undermining our education system. Well, during our time, we didn't have anything like categorization, category A or B or C. We didn't have it. We had options, and options means there are 2 schools. Which one do you want to go? Option 1 or option 2? So that option 1 is schools in this kind of condition and all of that. So you choose, But where you emphasize categorization based on learning outcomes and student performance, and heighten the inequity in the system, then that is what we get out of it. So you have people who are craving. Some schools are even saying, "Why am I category C?" And because my school performs better than another school in category A, or some of those things. So we need to really look at the way of developing a very good criteria to really put that categorization in place. Other than that, we need to scrap that and go on to an option that makes it easy for people not to think that, I'm going to a school like University Secondary School and it is not category A, so I won't go. Yeah. When in fact University Secondary School does quite a good job, or Suez School, you go there and they do quite good jobs. So it now behoves on parents, and maybe we, as NEC, will be doing more to support the government to help parents to see the schools that are available and have examples of some of those schools, so that they will have a longer time to make decisions as to where they want their children to attend.
Okay, I want us to touch on this before we draw the curtains of the program. The Joy News platform is noted for a number of works in the area of education. There's Scrambling Stars, there's Schools of Shape, all highlighting one basic challenge: infrastructure, Bernice. It's non-existent when you go to the rural communities that we're talking about.
Okay. Let's look at one of the key areas that we are doing a lot of advocacy is infrastructure for the basic school. That is where we really have a lot of concerns, because we feel that a lot has not been done. With the uncapping of the GET fund, we're hoping that we are going to get a chunk of money going into the basic school, because there are a lot of challenges there. But we are still not seeing. The government has really done well, this government, because if you look at the amount of money that was allocated to a basic school during the last budget that was read, it is commendable. But the problem is bigger than what has been allocated. So we are hoping that at least a child should get a chair to sit on when they go to school, at least, because the gap between public schools and then the private schools in Ghana, it is not too good. So we are telling ourselves that if you cannot afford to pay tuition for private schools, it means your child cannot get quality education, and it is not too good. And the number of children that are piled up in one class, it is so bad. The absence of libraries during on Monday, International Literacy Day, we donated a mobile library to Alogoshi 1 and 2 school, and then we realized that just with as little as 10,000 Ghana cedis, you can get a very nice mobile library for a basic school to enhance the reading and writing of the learners. Because looking at basic 1 to 3 in the school, the reading and then the writing of the students was very, very low. So these are some of the things we should look at, because even the sitting of a learner affects the handwriting.
Yes.
When we are 4 on a desk, you can't turn well to
You don't
write.
have the space.
And when you are lying on the floor, I don't know, sitting on a block, a stone, it is. So basic school infrastructure, please, there is more to be done. We will still call on the government or other stakeholders to invest into school infrastructure. Like Mr. Chega was talking about PPP.
Yes.
We can really look at that, especially in the manufacturing of the decks. Forestry Commission is there. We have some private timber organizations, and then all that. We can do a very good partnership and collaboration to ensure that at least when a child goes to school, can have a very good space to sit and learn.
I think it's also partly because of the over-centralization of our systems. Why don't we devolve more powers to the district levels so they're able to deal with infrastructure?
I think some of it is very devolved. But it looks like the cash flow into those devolved areas or decentralized areas also becomes a problem. So at the end of the day, the issue is cash flow. But I think we have established a system that is trying to draw attention to district or sub-national government institutions, that they have a responsibility to develop the spaces that they have, especially in the area of education, and ensure that they provide good education for the people in their areas. And some of these responsibilities would have to come to them. But a lot of them tend back to look at government to say, give us this, give us that. Government is literally, stampeded to do changes in some of its approved budget, and that creates a lot of problems for us.
Okay, we just have about 2 minutes to go. Your final words, Bernice, let me start off with you. What would you want to share with us before we go?
All right, so with regards to the examination malpractices, I'm really calling on parents to sensitize their children from home. My child wrote the BECE, and then I told the child that everything depends on what you have learned. So parents should encourage their wards to rather learn. Since it is the system we are running, we don't have any option. Encourage the children to learn so that they can write their examinations independently. All stakeholders should see it as a state of emergency in our education system, so that at least our examination results or certificates will be valid wherever it is taken to. So I am sure that WAEC will also set up and ensure. But we are watching and monitoring the punishment, and then what will be meted out to those that are involved in the malpractices per this video that we have. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think that every little information that emanates from this whole talk about examination malpractice is very vital. So we have not discussed even the involvement of some alleged local authorities. I mean, like chiefs and some of their sub-chiefs and all of that in specific areas, literally motivating the whole examination malpractice. And I think that we have to now put a system in place that names and shames any single person we find involved in the examination malpractice. So that, I mean, through that, they will be able to see that it is not a very good practice, and that they would begin to support the system and help their own children to aspire to greater heights.
Right. And there's no doubt that these individuals are passionate about education. So you've heard it all here on UpFront. I'm Blessed Sugan. We'll see you again, but grateful to Charles Aheto Chegan, who is the former Director General of the Ghana Education Service and Technical Advisor at the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. Also grateful to Bernice Imperi-Jachi, who is the National Coordinator for the same group. Joining us here on UpFront, I am Blessed Sugan. Until then, log on to myjoyonline.com. So many more stories there for you to be on the lookout for. We'll see you again. Until then, bye-bye.